are people who find a gap in the market and create value. Enron was a company that just pretended they created value, ladies and gentlemen. They broke the basic laws, essentially. But we just don't think this is typical. Like, everyone's heard of Enron because it was so unusual, ladies and gentlemen. It was the biggest economic scandal in our lifetimes, even, you know, all the people in this room's lifetime, whichever decades you can remember, ladies and gentlemen. But it's not typical. And simply, if you look at the stats from a wider perspective, as we have right from the very beginning of the first speech, you see that entrepreneurship is something that pulls people out of this social exclusion. So let's move on to talk specifically about the entrepreneurship that really is aimed at social goals. Because one thing we've got on our side today is the Nobel Peace Prize Committee. Because if you look at the people the man who got it in 2006, it was a man called Muhammad Yunus, and he runs something called the Grameen Bank. He was an entrepreneur. He set up this bank. And the idea of this bank is not that people would give charity per se, but that people would loan their money, which would then be loaned to entrepreneurs in Africa who would then pay the loans back. Not a gift, a loan. This idea of microfinance. It's been extraordinarily successful because for the first time people are really getting behind entrepreneurship in Africa as a solution for the social exclusion in that continent, ladies and gentlemen. So we have that Nobel Peace Prize. We actually have the last Nobel Peace Prize as well, ladies and gentlemen, because The Inconvenient Truth, the film by Al Gore, was in fact funded by Jeff Skoll, the founder of eBay. Another entrepreneur who's now using the wealth he's created with entrepreneurship towards philanthropic causes, raising awareness to clients. I'll take you there. Of global warming.
Yes. Obviously, you weren't here last Monday when Al Gore was pointed out to have made 40 complete and total fallacies, therefore meaning that your entrepreneurship is paying for lies propagated amongst Britain's children.
Right, what can you say about that? I think the point is that the bulk of the film was correct. Global warming is real. It's not some bizarre hoax that the eBay founders cooked up with Al Gore over some drinks, ladies and gentlemen, to clients. And I imagine he got the Nobel Peace Prize for drawing attention to a real thing that actually exists. I can't guarantee Muhammad Yunus has never said anything untrue in his life, so perhaps you should take everything I've said with a little grain of salt, ladies and gentlemen. But on the whole, we think these are examples of entrepreneurs making a positive impact to clients. And another example of this sort of entrepreneurship, the social entrepreneurship, is the carbon offsetting firms, to stay with the very contentious and controversial global warming subject, ladies and gentlemen. So these are not charities any more than Grameen Bank is a traditional charity. These are companies that when people take a flight or something like that, they get sent money and then they spend it somewhere else, which reduces the carbon footprint. And the reason they've done it the way they have in an entrepreneurial spirit rather than a typical charity is partly because they're typical entrepreneurs, they see a gap in the market, a way to make money, and we on the opposition are, in the words of Peter Mandelson, I think it was, profoundly comfortable with people getting filthy rich, ladies and gentlemen, but also because the professionalism of this entrepreneurial approach is something that can have a real impact in social things, in social inclusion. These sorts of issues. In fact, the social entrepreneurial thing is not just something I've invented. It's now so deeply rooted that we have the School of Social Entrepreneurship, the SSE, which has 5 branches in the UK, one in Ireland, formed by the late Labour peer Michael Young, which is teaching these sorts of values, pushing forward the entrepreneurs to act not as, you know, the old-style robber barons of the past, ladies and gentlemen, not like Enron, but to be more like the entrepreneurs talked about, particularly in the second speech. Entrepreneurs that, yes, make money, and yes, enjoy spending all the money they've made, but also work for social inclusion. So to conclude, what we're saying in this case is that if we want to fight the menace, the evil of social exclusion, both here in Britain and around the world, in the third world, the best way to do it, the powerhouse to fix this problem, is to encourage and support and foster entrepreneurship.
Thank you very much. And to round up tonight's debate, I call on the Secretary of the Union and our very own global warming expert, James Robinson.
Bang! That was the Union Society moving back to around about 1700. As you can see, my dress hasn't changed, but that's besides the point. What I'd like you to imagine is I'm now about to have a sort of conversation with my other personality. And what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about my brilliant new idea for how to make a shitload of money. And what we're going to talk about, we're going to have a little conversation. I want you to see if you can guess. See if you can guess what it is we're talking about. So, James Robinson, how are you doing, old chap? Very good to see you. I just had this brilliant idea. You know that new place they've discovered? I think they call it America. I want to come up with a brilliant idea on how to grow lots of sugar very cheap and make a lot of money. Oh, James Robinson, that sounds quite interesting. Yes, I'll give you lots of money to go off and be an entrepreneur and make lots of money growing sugar rather cheaply. Right, okay, so we're now back in England in 2007. So do any of you have any thoughts on what we were just talking about?
Schizophrenia.
Well, we were talking about schizophrenia, but that's almost still in 2007. So a little play was going on there. Any thoughts?
Slavery.
Slavery, exactly. Slavery. Brilliant idea from an entrepreneurial point of view. I make a lot of money because what I do is I go around, I go, oh, you blackie, you're shit, you are. Come over here and work or I'll kill you. And I'll make a lot of money because as an entrepreneur, that makes me a lot of money. I think that entrepreneurship positively supports that kind of thing. Because if you have a sweatshop full of people, you make a lot more money than if you have a workforce being paid minimum wage. I think that anyone that disagrees with that is quite clearly not an entrepreneur. Because you're never going to make any money if your primary idea is that you're going to look after your workforce and pay them well. I think you can make money that way, but I think you'll make a lot more money much faster, piling them high and selling them cheap. I'd like to stop on the slavery, unless anyone has any points of information on my logical inaccuracies in my slavery arguments.
What sort of entrepreneurship is buying them high and selling them cheap?
Piling them high, you fool. Clearly you've never heard of entrepreneurial shit like
entrepreneurship.
Lingo. Yeah, that's bad entrepreneurship. That's the sort of thing they do on the proposition with, pay people well, look after everybody. Great idea. Right, okay, no more points at the moment. Go on. Yes, go on.
So, hypothetically, you're saying that the less you pay an employee, right, the more money you make. Absolutely. What you have to understand is with competition, that employee will leave for a better company. And that will keep happening and your business will fail.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain them up, right? And I'm going to whip them. I mean, this is what we're talking about. We're not talking about, the nice, Western world where, we're all protected by habeas corpus and we have all these lovely privileges. We're talking about Africa. We're talking about Asia, where we have powerful despots and corrupt governments where, if you pay the right person the right amount of money, as has been pointed out earlier, it doesn't matter that you beat up your workforce and they're locked in, and that you keep them a long way from their families, and that they don't have transport infrastructure to get them to and from work, and blah, 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 which is